Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
The side of the federal building has been blown off, Jesse.
They believe they were part of a CIA project called MK Ultra.
Just like a segment of society that is not living in reality.
In a certain sense, we're kind of a little bit more Israel's vassal state.
There are police chiefs facilitating prostitution networks.
Do you understand? It's all in your head. It's your move.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Underclass Podcast with myself, Austin Wade Picard. And today we are joined, obviously, by William Ramsey of William Ramsey Investigates, who is one of my favorite people, honestly, to have conversations with, just in general. I described you as, honestly, one of my favorite dance partners, just in terms of trying to digest so much of this extraordinary information and evidence, obviously, but as far as you joining us today to specifically discuss these revelations within the context of especially the final release of these Epstein files, it really is, as much as we are overexposed, it's extraordinary and it's shocking, and it's something that really just provides a window into that level of darkness. And it's something that I think I described in my not my Epstein, but my Mark Dutroux episode, where I basically said that through examining the Dutroux case and the Dutroux affair, essentially we catch another glimpse of what lies beneath, essentially, as we kind of are provided a window and also stumble onto this proverbial window into what effectively becomes, as I tweeted for the promo of this show, the shadowy global elite, right? Which is honestly, they're very much just offering us an example, an avenue into the level of the undeniable exploitation of the most vulnerable among us. So I feel as if there's no better time than now to essentially provide a spotlight on what I've been describing as the pedophile occupied government, and very much seemingly entrenched and insulated from any real accountability whatsoever. And so justice on behalf of the victims and their families just feels so far away from where we are in this current moment. And so once again, I have to thank you for coming on the show, brother, and obviously introduce yourself for anyone who's new to the show. But yeah, and then we can just honestly start wherever you would like.
There's a lot to go through, but thanks for having me back on the show. Thanks for the nice intro. William Ramsey, been researching for a long time, like 15 years. And this is really, like you said, this is an incredible event. And the drop was January 30th. So it's only been about 12 days, I guess. But I really tried to read as much as I could and go through and look into it as much as possible. And it's extraordinary. It's more intense than Pizzagate, which was James Alefantis and those kind of Instagram pictures that he had. Right. This is something incredible. It's not very well organized. They should have had an index or something like that, but I think it's deliberately sloppy. There's duplicates. There's redactions and some things that aren't redacted, like you mentioned in the pre-show, like victims are exposed who didn't want to be exposed. That was the whole point of the redactions. And then all these perps who are in there, and a lot of documents. There was one major document that came out that I was think is the top 10, which is a list of co-conspirators. The pre-district attorney at that time, the U.S. attorney, Jeffrey Berman, did all this research in 2019 and wrote an 85-page document listing other co-conspirators, which was highly redacted. And then they took it down. But I have a copy of it. I put it up on my X, the link on my X page if people want it. But it shows that they were looking into it. So all these public statements by Trump, Bongino, Patel, and the Blondie, Bondi,
Yeah,
all
right.
lies. They're lying, or they're stupid because it's in the documents, like it should be in their records that they've been like redacting for a year or something like that. So it's extraordinary on a lot of things, and it is peering into darkness. I had another show, I called it Jeffrey Epstein's Cup of Abominations, because it's almost like biblical, like looking
Yeah.
into Satan worshipers and all their coded language. It's reminiscent of Pizzagate, the minimization, the denialism too. Like, oh, people are just, oh, this isn't so bad. I've never heard anybody use the word goy before. This kind of,
Mm.
I've heard all this stuff around.
Well, I
But,
saw you tweet specifically making the reference to this obvious recycled moral panic and unjustified moral hysteria and outrage, which obviously I think you described it as the new talking point for the Epstein denialists or something, which I thought was perfectly put. But I mean, it is refashioned satanic panic as well, as you said, and I thought it was so hilarious, the description of what the mainstream press is essentially presenting the Epstein files as, and the interpretation of on social media especially. And it was, the release of the Epstein files has sparked a resurgence of conspiracy theories, often described as a moral panic, where individuals are accused based on tenuous connections to Epstein. This phenomenon reflects a broader trend of fear and speculation surrounding elite corruption and abuse, reminiscent of past moral panics. And it's just so fitting, right, for what you were just describing and perfectly illustrating in terms of the reactionary mockingbird media in a way. But fascinating to see.
it really is. I mean, I tried to watch some of the mainstream responses, and some of them it's no response. This is nothing. Fox News is not even covering it. Trump says he's not in it, which he's all over the documents, like in really bad ways too, like
Mhm.
murder and death and like abuse.
Yeah.
In ways that, like, they didn't redact like a lot of these handwritten notes by the children,
Mhm.
and those are some of the most important facts that we have, and we can go into some of the details, but like Trump's mentioned in there, Epstein, Leon, names, personal names, and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. But like you said, this moral panic, and I think a lot. I mean, this is going to be a huge shift, like a sifting of all these people who were formerly kind of influential influencers, right? This kind of new media figures, because they made decisions either to cover it or not cover it. And it's really going to be who's talking about it and who isn't. Like, who's minimizing it, because this is huge. They're literally trafficking in babies, guys. Like, there's facts in there. So people lying about, where are these children? Where are the children that these little kids who were they called themselves they're teens, called themselves incubators? Where are those children? Are they unknown? Because we knew from like earlier things, like I've studied, like I interviewed Derek Burrows. It's hard to believe, but it was 8 years ago, about Epstein. I was like, who's this Epstein guy? Because it was before he was arrested. It was before, I call it like a watermark, is the Julie K. Brown 3-part series that the Miami Herald put out in late 2018 that led up to kind of this quote moral panic
Right.
of that time. But people, like, they didn't know. They had heard stuff. Like, there were other, things that happened in 2006, 2007. I think there was a Vanity Fair article. I have a link actually to all the old articles of 170 pages on my X account if people want to see all of the information that was put out about Epstein 20 years ago.
Mhm.
But I think that at that time, this thing by Brown was what really kind of put the gears together to arrest Epstein.
Right.
And it's just an extraordinary event. I mean, yeah, there's just so much information in this thing. I think going back to my point, which I lost my train of thought, but it's like who's talking about it, who's not, who's minimizing this, and who's showing the incredible gravity. And I've talked to a lot of women since these came out, and they feel like a lot of them were betrayed, like women's values, especially even on the right, like these people like congresswomen and stuff like that. Green, Mace, the woman from Colorado. They're all seeing these. They're getting the unredacted versions. For people who don't know, we only got half the files. It's still huge because you can piece them together. Like this whole web of connections is being put together. So anyway,
Yeah.
rambling at this point.
Oh no, I think they're all just wonderful points at this moment, because for sure what I just mentioning Trump, obviously, I mean he's accused and they're claiming this is a false allegations, but in terms of being accused of raping a 13-year-old in the files specifically, and then the connection to the Mar-a-Lago calendar girls and things of that nature is just it's stunning to actually read through, and then the level of redactions again is something that I think is by design, right? It was I believe that it was intentional to keep an individual such as a co-conspirator at the level of a Les Wexner redacted and protected under those redactions, as you're overexposing the very victims who have honestly the most to lose and already have lost, I think, the most in terms of just their overall just in terms of the effect and impact it has on their life, the level of abuse and sinister nature of it, and psychologically the effect, I would imagine, is lifelong. And it's just seeing what the claim was, obviously lawyers of Epstein survivors asking courts to essentially force the DOJ to take down the Epstein files. I felt like that was by design. Right, you have the family of Virginia Giuffre, like essentially coming out and claiming the DOJ cares nothing for the victims and have in no way essentially tried to protect them through the redactions that were very much, I think, intentionally prioritized to protect the permanent establishment of pedophiles. And meanwhile, I thought you would love the point of Alan Dershowitz, of course, allegedly communicating with Mossad on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein, which we already know the fascinating connections with Epstein and Ehud Barak, and him attempting to help position Peter Thiel as a power broker for Ehud as he's leaving office. It's just so fascinating. But there was one thing I had to tell you, which was obviously the strange email correspondence between, I think it was some Mongolian contact that was attempting to convey a message on behalf of Epstein to the president of Mongolia. And the quote in the actual file, the email correspondence, was "Welcome for coffee, snuff, conversation, no tie." This is 2015 with Mr. Epstein. And meanwhile, of course, you have Trump, William Buckley, and Alan Dershowitz acting as character witnesses on behalf of Roy Cohn, who is clearly "Where's my Roy Cohn?" And that was during his disbarment hearing in 1986, I believe. And I think it was Buckley himself who wasn't it William Buckley Jr., who was, I think Howard Hunt was his godfather or something to that effect, I believe it was the story. And basically Buckley wrote about Dershowitz's defense of the snuff films in one of his columns.
And in one of his shows too. Like I have a video that I reposted.
Oh, I remember that video. Yeah. It's
FB.
fascinating to watch, right? But my God, snuff is nothing new. And neither are these prolific pedophile networks that prey upon the most vulnerable among us. So honestly, we could start anywhere considering the the extraordinary nature of these files. But I'm ready for
The
wherever you want to
blackmails
begin.
there. Roy, you mentioned Cohn. Buckley
Mhm.
writes the intro to Hunt's book about himself, like minimizing all of the stuff. Like he's a head of domestic operations for the CIA in the US. Like, oh yeah, I never did that. I never wrote this. I never wrote this guy's, a diary and all this stuff. Like these guys are cover-up artists. Buckley is Skull and Bones, right?
Hmm.
And I think he worked under Hunt. Hunt was the head of the Mexico office for the CIA, if I remember at one point.
Yeah.
So
that-
there's all these connections. So the murky networks and what's going the thing about these files, just like one more thing, is it shows just how much goes going on under the surface, right? Because we just get what they put out or what they're telling people in public or in these media outlets. Now we see what's going on. One of the most interesting files that you talked is redaction of all these pedophiles. There is a file from March 2025. I have a link to it somewhere, but it's basically a notification within the FBI that we're going to redact all these people from the Epstein files, right? So they knew it intentionally that they were redacting these people, right?
Mhm.
That's a huge tell. So I'm assuming that Bondi and Patel knew that they were going to redact them, right? So they're actually covering up for these criminal acts. Like these are criminal acts.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
this is
Oh,
that one file. I
that
was
one
talking
thing, William, just before you start, I'm sorry to step on your toes, but I didn't realize last night whenever I mentioned this story from the Daily Mail from yesterday about 330 gallons of sulfuric acid being purchased for Epstein's Island on the very day the FBI opens their investigation into the pedophile trafficking charges. And I'm like,
six
okay,
55-gallon drums, no less. So like, bring me the
six.
classic 55-gallon drum motif from the mall, or like
Exactly.
dumping bodies in the ocean.
Right, but the 33 in terms of the 330 gallons, obviously that's a reach, but still hard not to notice, you know?
Right. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, the timing is everything. And that's the whole thing is like on the surface, these look benign, but then when you realize the times and dates, it's not because in the documents, they're getting those things to clean out the supposed cover. And everything's a cover. The cover is that we're getting these things to like clean out the pipes on the island or something like that. That's their
Oh my
excuse.
gosh.
And that's what they put in. I think I have a slide on that, but that's what they put in the requisition, right?
Uh-huh.
But everything's dual use or whatever. So it doesn't, it's just interesting how they'll go through this facade, right? To
Yeah.
the public. Oh, I just want, we just need to clean out the pipes. I know,
Plausible
I just got, I'm getting investigated by the FBI. Holy smokes,
yeah,
like
exactly.
the timing. They're telling one person one thing, knowing full well. And it is interesting. You see that Epstein's getting more and more nervous from that late 2018 period up to his arrest in July 6, 2019.
Yeah.
And we can get to this later. I have a document, but I do think they tried to murder him. They got him in jail to kill him.
Mhm.
And I think they tried to murder him. He's not alive. They tried to kill him on July 23rd of 2019, and then they successfully killed him in August 10th, the morning of August 10th, 2019. So, and there's a lot of pictures. If they fake these pictures and stuff like that, it's probably the greatest cover-up of all in all of human history, in my opinion.
Right. That's so crazy. I think it obviously it makes a lot of sense as far as the strange satirical posts that in regard to even some of the AI generated files I think were by design very much so. And I saw basically it was that picture where that was AI created picture of that it looked like an aged Epstein with longer hair, right? And everyone was claiming it was from Israel. And but I just in terms of the actual level of just satire taken seriously with these false reports, I think it's by design as well because it happens to just perfectly fit with the level of attempting to tie a lot of the interpretation of the files and also some of the most extraordinary evidence, I think, is being tied to this, and deliberately so, to this strange Pizzagate conflationary method that they're hoping to achieve. Which honestly, just considering the level of pizza references, I think it was 911 total references, which is fascinating, that number as well. But again, I felt like they were focusing on providing the spotlight to the more extraordinary and unprovable files and email correspondence and things of that nature, to at the very least provide this false framework, and I think a presentation that is plausible enough to the vast majority of the general public who are already seemingly unwilling to accept the reality of pedophile occupied government. And so they could easily hide behind this coded language that they're relying upon as they in a way disguise this limited hangouts, I think is sort of what's happening, which is why I believe the utilizing the excuse and of the defense attorneys calling for the files to be removed and then re-redacted on behalf of the victims and then reposted. They will take this opportunity to effectively memory hole so much of, I think, the most disturbing elements of what was discovered. And I mean, this is again, the code words, the coded language is very much important, but it provides no real fundamental proof of anything, honestly, unless all that it really does is reinforce what we already unfortunately know and are aware of. But I think that only really applies to an exclusive. Now, more than ever, I think people are waking up to it, but it does very much, I think, apply to this small subset group in society at large that are willing to question the permanent establishment and obviously consider with an open mind the level of deception playing out. But yeah, that's just my kind of perspective on the Pizzagate kind of conflation that they're attempting to make with the Epstein files, but it fits with the Satanic Panic 2.0 recycled narrative. So
right, they just brought up the same playbook, man. Like,
exactly.
oh yeah, you're conspiracy theory minded, the same words,
Right.
you know, unhinged, no evidence, all this stuff. Like, and then you read it, and it's like, but the code words are new. There's newer ones. Grape soda and cheese, cream cheese, jerky, shrimp.
The
Like
shrimp,
people,
right?
yeah.
That freaked me out when I read through that.
Well, I've got a lot of shrimp references. I would give a heads up to anybody listening. Like, this is going to get really dark. Like, it's super dark. It's darker. I have new, like I was telling you pre-show, I've got new connections nobody's made. So
Awesome.
I mean, it's transnational. They're into really dark stuff. And you, like, both of us, I think, are kind of prepped because we've done these shows on this, like Brussels or Balenciaga, right? Or this whole all the coded stuff inside these Balenciaga pictures and the really dark things. Like, these people are super dark. And Marina Abramovich, who's in these files as well. And there was, like, she's meeting with all these tech bigwigs, including Musk, in Palo Alto, in Northern California, at the head of Brockman, who's part of the network, in 2015 and 2016, before Pizzagate, before the blood, you know, the spirit cooking stuff came out.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys never came forward. You know, nobody said, like Musk can say, I went to dinner with her. You know, I was put up by this Edge group by John Brockman. And I didn't know, you know, a lot of these people are going to get away with it by just saying I didn't know.
Right.
But at least they do disclose it. Like Joe Rogan his show is the Epstein network.
I know.
So many people, everybody's on there. Even his chef, even Epstein's chef, like I forgot his name now, but he had a 3 name, but it's Kraus. Pinker, I think, has been on his show, Rogan show, Weinstein. Just so many of these people were mentioned in these files. Jonathan Haidt, or Haidt, Haidt. They're all in this thing, and they're all sending emails to each other.
And Dreesen and Peter Thiel as well, right? Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these code words are dark, and I've got a lot of stuff on that, but once you realize why they're calling shrimp, like their baby's missing. They're not one of the myths too that I've figured out looking at these files is what they've told to the public is these guys were herbivores or Hebrewophile, I think is the word, where they just like young women, right? We just like 15 or 16-year-old girls, and you know, that's our interest, which is illegal, but that's a myth. That's a total myth. There are pictures of these guys and girls and stories of 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's way worse. Yeah. So yeah, the Jeffrey Epstein experience, it's kind of like that. If you go back
Mhm.
and some of these things that Epstein chef, when Rogan had Epstein chef on, he never asked him any questions about Epstein. Percy Allen or whatever is Perry. Michael Perry, I think his last name is Perry.
Okay.
But like he never, it just like, this is obtuse. Like, why wouldn't you ask him what it was like flying around with Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Hmm. And I feel like the Steve Bannon correspondence has been so revealing in itself as well, right? Just in terms of the strange language they were using to conduct their dialogue. It seemed as if it was a little bit more concerning than it's given the credit at this moment. And I think that also applies to the level of exposure to so many of these prior cases that apply to this enterprise that feels as if it's this overarching umbrella network that helps facilitate these various geographical branches of a very similar strategic playbook that's being utilized. I mean, I think of the Finders, I think of Kincora, I think of so many different examples, even McMartin and Presidio and West Point. I mean, how many can we point to where this was effectively taking place? And obviously, Dutroux is the one that always is top of mind due to the level of political figures of prominence being directly involved with human hunting parties and ritualistic snuff murder films being conducted in like a major defense contractor factory called ASCO. This was real. Two guys were on the board of this company. One was a former military or Israeli military officer who apparently was a Mossad agent, who was a known arms smuggler and weapons trafficker for Iran-Contra. And he's sitting on the board of this company that has a factory in Belgium that Regina Louf, X1 in the X dossier, one of the critical victims that had DID and everything else, and that was brought into the network by her grandmother that ran a brothel in Nazi Germany before relocating to Belgium, and apparently offered officers and enlisted men separate brothels within Germany during the war. And that was Regina Louf's mother or grandmother who taught her how to sexually pleasure her at like 3 years old, something to that effect, and then sent her into the network and sold her off to her handler. And it's so disturbing to hear her tell the story of being taken among many other victims who reinforced this credible evidence that she was taken to the ASCO factory, which is a major defense contractor, and was effectively, brutally traumatized and abused on film. And then that is even when they introduced her to her 3-year-old daughter that she hadn't seen since she had been abused through birth. And they legitimately said if she passed out due to the level of pain after, a very graphic form of abuse that I don't want to even describe, she passes out due to the blood loss. And when she wakes up and comes to, Michelle Nihoul, Marc Dutroux, Annie Booty, all these individual prominent figures effectively execute her 3-year-old daughter in a snuff film in front of her as a consequence of her passing out. That is the level that we're dealing with in this very network that we're attempting to describe in terms of Epstein and all the relative members of this network that seem to be very much, as I said before, insulated from any justice whatsoever coming forward.
No, it's incredible. And I think that's a good exemplar, is this. And you'll see that in these documents, there's Brussels involved in this one where they mention the Ninth Circle. But it's like, that's the level of depravity and sickness most people could not comprehend that.
Yeah.
They don't live it day to day. And it's interesting you bring up this defense contracting and this manufacturing facility, because what I've found out about Epstein is how involved he is in the financial and economic affairs of the United States and his network. These are people in like hedge funds. He's communicating with them all the time. He's relaxing with them. He's inviting them to the island, whether it's this guy Leon Black, these Apollo management people who like are managing they're billionaires. So you can see how they kind of get away with it because they have people at their beck and call. These files are so crazy. We can just go through them. I mean, people will not believe this. They're like talking about, oh yeah, I know this guy. He's ex Delta Force. Like they're trying to like hire like ex-military people of the
Special
highest
forces.
caliber.
Yeah.
Like what the heck? Like you're talking about. They are all Jews. A lot of them. Gates isn't Jewish. Musk isn't Jewish.
Right.
Thiel is definitely not Jewish.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of that. You know, they use the word goy. I
Right.
don't think they ever thought that would come out.
Honestly. Oh,
You mentioned the Bannon, the Bannon Epstein things are crazy.
Mhm.
They're so
Isn't
good.
it?
Epstein calls Bannon like good boy, like he's his dog. It's
Oh my
like
God.
good boy. Oh, that's a good attaboy. He says this to Bannon in 2018, and Bannon just takes it. It's incredible. Anyway, there could be a whole show on the Bannon Epstein
Oh,
exchanges. 'Cause they're so
absolutely.
funny.
Even
They're
that
in
interview,
constant
man.
communication, yeah.
That interview was so funny to watch. He's obviously attempting to run some sort of rehabbed rebrand of the image of Epstein in a way, and but yet
No doubt
also
about
come
it.
off as a sort of hardball journalist, that's going to push back. Is kind of how he attempted to present it, I think, but very much a failure on that front. But I will say the moment. There were a few very revealing moments, obviously. I thought when Epstein's attempting to justify some notion, which is obviously not necessarily based in truth, which is regarding no scientific explanation or basis for how you're sexually attracted to another individual, and also no scientific explanation for what evokes this certain sense of creepiness. And then he talks about how he was introduced to the Trilateral Commission, and that it was basically described as the Illuminati group that helped rule the world and run the world from behind the scenes. And then obviously instantly says, yeah, of course I'll be a part of this. And it's just so crazy to see him say that.
What's really scary is like this is one guy who got exposed. I think a lot of these guys are in on this and they know it. And that's the network of trafficking, exchanging. It's eyes wide shut type stuff. And even that Regina Louf is like almost like one of the victims in Eyes Wide Shut. And the parallels are there. They're really stark and obvious. Like women as furniture, as manipulable, as disposable, as a totally objectified, have their babies, but also, traffic and thing. Some people don't get it, but Eyes Wide Shut is about a elite pedophile group. At the very end, Elena gets taken off by some randos with security and all this stuff. That's like, it's just.
Wasn't that the Rothschild ball, the masked ball? I forget what they called it, but the Rothschild ball of like 78 or something, I think, is when they technically held the one that Stanley Kubrick attempted to imitate in Eyes Wide Shut and even filmed there, I think, at that very
It
location.
was a Rothschild mansion for sure. I forgot the name of it. But
And by the way, that was referenced. I think the Rothschilds were named in the files over 11,000 times.
they're like one of the crazy things that overlaps is like the same woman, Evelyn D. Rothschild, is in these files and she's in Pizzagate too. Like she spanned 10 years. She's still around.
Yep.
And she's there with all those guys from like the left wing action groups and stuff. I forgot his name offhand, but close to Alefantis. I think it was Alefantis' boyfriend at one point. So like she's like,
That's insane.
it's really insane. I mean, and some of the admissions that he says, like he presents himself as a representative, Epstein does, as a representative for $160 billion Rothschild fund.
Yeah.
Like that's their investment fund. So it's like bigger than the, yearly income of most countries in the world. Like
Right.
GDP of countries in the world. That's incredible.
There was a connection to that as well, which I thought, wasn't it like a $25 million contract or something that he claimed that he had as a agent of the Rothschild family, and that there was like a strange dialogue between Ariane de Rothschild and Epstein, where it very much made me question Epstein's bloodline and honestly how he was handed the keys, because I don't believe that he himself formed this network of such prolific prominence. I almost I think I've read in the past that essentially people have made the connection that this was actually Roy Cohn's sexual blackmail operation, and the keys were just handed off to Epstein and Wexner at a certain point. And that makes sense in terms of Air America and the same essentially the same CIA cutout, which was allowing these clandestine flights not only for the Epstein network but for the finders, and flying into Cabazon and utilizing Cabazon as a basically a housing facility for some of the abducted children that they were apparently facilitating and moving throughout the network. But the connection questioning the bloodline came with that strange email where Ariane de Rothschild claims that Hitler was destitute in Vienna, right, when he was, which obviously in my Hitler and the Nazi occult episode, this is the moment in time where there are all these allegations that essentially Hitler was a mind-controlled male prostitute in Vienna and was destitute at this moment. And also, I think it was the memoirs of Bridget Hitler claiming that he had Tavistock mind control manuals that he refused to let out of his sight, and that he would study them all the time at late points of the evening and things of that nature. But either way, it's
You
kind
ever
of
see
hilarious.
that painting that he took of the bridge that was at Tavistock?
No.
You ever heard that? Yeah. This
Oh
is
my
like
God.
one of the, yeah. There's a rumor that he went to England in his teens, right? That
Uh-huh.
he was there. I think he had relatives in Manchester. But there is a drawing that he did when he was in his teens of the same bridge that's at Tavistock. You can
Oh
look
my
that up.
God.
And that's like, how do you know that bridge and what it looks like? And there's like the picture has a little kid fishing, and people are like, the only way he would know that is if he saw a picture of it or was there,
Or was that little kid fishing?
or
Yeah.
was there something. And
Right,
we
yeah.
know, like you talk about that mind, we know Hannison, which is really interesting. He's like this occultist and mind controller and hypnotist.
Mhm.
Hitler knew him, and then he died right after the fire at the Reichstag, I think
Oh,
in
wow.
33.
Mm.
But also Hitler was in the war and went insane after the war. He literally lost his mind. He lost the ability. He had such kind of like a nervous type of breakdown that he lost his eyesight. This is all history.
Yeah.
He
It's a
was
mustard
taken
gas attack or something, I think it was.
something.
Yeah.
He was taken to an infirmary all the way across Germany to recover. And once he came out of there, he's like, I got to save Germany. That's like
Yeah.
his, like, crossing the Rubicon or some kind of huge event that changed his mind. He's
Right.
gone through different personality phases too.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah. He
but
said
just
he didn't
the-
act.
yeah.
Sorry, go
He
ahead,
was
William.
a sleepwalker. Yeah. He
Yeah.
like acted with sleepwalker. But in this facility, we know the doctor who managed that facility was into hypnotism. He was into
Yeah.
like heavy duty hypnotism. So like
That
all
was
this stuff about
spacewalk,
MK
right?
Ultra and things, you have to push this stuff way back to Mesmer and all these other characters, because a lot of these doctors were involved in this stuff, and they know
Right.
it's not, a lot of it's not publicized, and a lot of people just don't think it's important. They just like
Mhm.
they'll just like, it's not important to my story. I want to see him as a Jew-hating anti-Semite or whatever.
Right.
Which he was.
Exactly. Yeah, it was Forster, I think, was the name of the individual who allegedly was the doctor that hypnotized Hitler at Pacewalk. And this is when he was essentially only answering or responding and acting after he heard a voice that he named Providence.
Right.
Yeah.
He had like an angelic
What the hell?
experience. No, that's true too. They always overlook that as well. Like he believed that, I think in his mind eye, he had something where he saw one of the ascended masters. That's why he
Mhm.
liked Blavatsky. And some
Exactly.
people have said that's Lucifer. So he saw a representation of Lucifer, which would make perfect sense.
Interesting.
That Lucifer
That
came
is so
to him at
crazy.
the hospital and said,
My
I got
God.
work for you. And because all his ideas from then on are all Luciferian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Racism, master race, slaves,
Yep.
It's all Blavatskyism.
Exactly. And I don't understand how people act as if he was generous with the relationship he had with these German shepherds. I've seen people making these claims as if he loved children and dogs, and I'm like, man, look up what the Nazi SS was responsible for doing when they were given those puppies, those German shepherds as puppies, and then essentially going through some sort of traumatic mind control experience in order to prove their loyalty. But the Pacewalk connection, though, the psychiatrist Edmund Forrester was his name, and he's the one who concluded that Hitler's condition was hysterical blindness, and hypnotized him allegedly. But whatever treatment he received under Forrester's care will never be known, due to the fact that in 1933, the Gestapo seized all psychiatric records related to his treatment and destroyed them. Forrester also committed suicide that very same year.
I'm sure he did. It's these huge cover-up jobs. Like, that's the whole thing, is the Night of the Long Knives. Like, and this is like what historians can do if they're focused on one aspect of it. But the Night of the Long Knives was like, I got to get rid of anybody who knows I'm gay. I got to get rid of my psychiatric history. This is my chance. Like, this is what he's been worried about for a decade. So he kills Ernst Röhm, who's like openly gay. Like, that's his closest buddy for like 15 years. So he's got to get rid of him, and he's got to burn all these documents. So he burns all these documents,
Right.
like relating to his past. So we'll never
That's so
know.
funny.
And there were other things. There was a guy in Austria who kept a book on Hitler and his secret past. And he made sure to kill him too when the 1938 came around. I forgot his name too. But like, he had all this like info on Hitler. Like,
Wow.
that book never made the light of day, and he died.
Of
It's
course.
like 1938. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the way that this all ties back into the Epstein files is because Ariane de Rothschild had the audacity to message Epstein and say, first, it turns out to be 100% true. Hitler was selling his clothes and artwork and living in a shelter funded by Jews. Epstein, Rothschild, and Gutman. No conspiracy. The Epsteins were the Vienna bankers. Bought their bank on the ring, hence still Polias Epstein. Where are you? I'm in bed with your cold. This is the response. Whether it is a way to say that generosity is not rewarded or that the conspiracy theory still exists is quite pathetic. And then Epstein responds, I thought you'd find amusing that in Harvard class on Hitler, they told the story of when he was so poor, he lived in a shelter for the homeless and destitute that had been financed by the three wealthy families, the Gutmans, the Epsteins, and the Rothschilds. It turns out to be accurate. So that I 100%, it made me question the rags to riches story of Jeffrey Epstein and how he became this prolific pedophile of prominence running this network. Again, I think it's far more likely and plausible that this was just an extension of this Roy Cohn's sexual blackmail operation passed off to a different face. I could be wrong, but
I think you're right. Don't you think he was handled? Sometimes he comes across as somebody who's not that clever. Like,
exactly.
he's not refined in certain things, like an educated person where keep his
Absolutely.
mouth shut. And people this is like stories that come out when they're sitting with him. He's a bit vacuous. Like, he doesn't have a frame of reference as clever as other people. But so it makes sense that he was a front. Like, there are other people around him who are very smart, like Alan Dershowitz, who's absolutely brilliant. I'm not going to say anything about his morals, but my he's a moral leper. But if he has help from a lot of other people. I mean, the mega group's the one who's like beyond him. So it paid off. I think that even Lutnick said in a recorded interview recently, he was the greatest blackmailer of all time.
Wow.
That Epstein was the greatest blackmailer of all time. Let's see if I can find that. It's an incredible statement.
It really
It's the guy
is.
sitting behind Trump. you know?
Right.
Like, oh yeah, he's the greatest. Yeah, here it is. Let me see if I can play this. I don't know if you want to play the whole thing, but it's at the end. Let's see. There's a lot going on. I mean, the timing of our interview is incredible because all this stuff went down at Congress today.
I know. Yeah.
Like, that's
Was it Clinton and Who else
No,
is?
Bondi was in there. I know today.
Okay.
So
I
um,
think set to testify was like Clinton and some other major individuals of prominence. I can't recall now, but I did find it interesting, at least because I thought they would potentially wiggle their way out of even having to publicly testify in any real sense but who knows? I think as far as what you were just referencing in terms of Epstein's like unimpressive nature, that very much was exposed in that interview with Bannon, and even when he asked him about his classification of sex offender, his classification, right? And he says tier 1 and pushes back instantly to the tier 3 classification, and then when Bannon asks him, "Are you the devil?" And he responds, "No, but I have a very good mirror," or something like that. And very strange, right?
what does that mean?
Exactly.
Is he saying coded language again?
Yeah,
If you want to play this, you can play the whole
Oh, yeah.
thing with Ludnick,
Giving
or you can
tour
just
in
play the
living
end.
room, big living room, and then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors, and there's a massage table in the middle of the room, and candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, "Massage table in the middle of your house? How often you have a massage?" And he says, "Every day." And then he like gets like weirdly close to me. And he says, "And the right kind of massage." Now my wife is standing here.
This is a
So
staged
she
interview,
looks at me,
in my opinion.
and I look at her,
Complete-
and
What do
we
you call
say-
it? Kafebe or whatever. What's the word?
Yeah, exactly. This is
Kayfabe.
definitely a designed kayfabe because
Kayfabe, yeah.
it looks like. Well, first of all, I don't believe a word of this
Yeah.
story.
She's like,
It
"Oh, you're reciting what you need. You bring in your wife. Bring in your wife. Okay, good."
seems- exactly. Ooh,
But using
like
it
what
as
are
a
you
defense.
doing, woman?
"I'm sorry, we have to go." And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross. And so I look back at it as a gift.
Yes.
He gave me a gift.
This is baloney. He's in a business with the guy. They literally have signed documents in the Epstein files where they're in business together. So this is
Exactly.
just complete kayfabe. It's just complete acting and nonsense. And she's just, "Oh yeah, you're doing great." This guy's a total liar. He sits behind Trump and laughs all the time too. It's very
Yeah.
unnerving.
I know.
Yes.
Of avoid. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
So
that's
he
my
was-
story. A one and absolutely done.
Right. So I
This guy.
mean,
This is like put this
Look
on
back
loop.
at it.
This is just
As a
complete
Yes.
preposterous.
He gave me a gift
Mhm.
yes.
of avoid. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
So
that's
he
my
was-
story. A one and absolutely done.
Right. So I mean, that's an incredible story that you could pick up that he was a pervert.
It's gross. The guy's gross. I mean, right with my wife. And like, he's gross. The guy's gross. This was not, the deep nuance of Howard Lutnick. This guy's gross.
Right. So how come Bill Gates and all these other people could hang around him and not see what you saw? Or did they see it and ignore it? Or
No, they participated.
right.
That's what his MO was, get a massage, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever.
Wow. Yeah, you pair that with because obviously that was from his statement. I think he's making this from a 2005 apparently some sort of arranged visit with Epstein apparently, and then but yet that doesn't seem to pair very well with the change in his story in terms of the 2012 example of obviously him taking 8 children, including his own, to Epstein's island to obviously have some strange lunch. But that in itself is so clear that that this man is he should be at least getting much criticism, and hopefully he will resign, and that will be some measure of accountability, which we very rarely actually achieve. But at the very least, if people aren't aware this man is a sinister pedophile, then you're not paying attention, right? But yeah, his prominence is very much, I think, worth pointing out as well. Not only do we have examples of as you mentioned, Epstein being in business with Lutnick in the actual documents. I mean, he's the commerce secretary. That is just absurd that this is even honestly an issue, right? As far as an individual of such prominence, but of course, this applies, and yeah, describing this as limited interactions, but yet he's signed on with Epstein for limited liability companies that agreed in 2012, the very same time he's presenting these children to Epstein on his island. He apparently signs this acquiring stakes in a now shuttered advertising technology company that was called Adfin. And so, yeah, if you don't believe a word these people are saying is really the main point, right?
They're all lying. Trump's lying. Lutnick's lying. And they've been lying. That's what these files exposes. They've lied blatantly and brazenly to the American people for years, if not decades. These are all pre-constructed things, because the same thing, Ed Dershowitz does the same thing. Like, I went there for a massage. So that they keep this thing like, oh, you just like young women. There are kids there, guys. There's like 9 or 10-year-old kids and babies and infants and stuff.
Yeah.
But they keep saying you just like young girls and there's just massages. No. It's way worse than that, guys. These are all like fashioned by somebody in public relations or something like that. These are all like damage control interviews. I don't even know who this woman is, but like, it's just so sick when you know.
Right.
I like his like laughing, giddy, like, oh, smiling and laughing. That's his con man job,
Yep.
It's
Exactly.
just repulsive,
Honestly.
He should quit. I think a lot of these people should quit. I mean, I don't know how they're going to survive. Like, it's only the knowledge is going to disseminate. It's only going to expand. And we're going to understand more and more and more. And all these people's lives are, I mean, I'm sure you know as well as I do, like Bongino and Patel, like they made their bones to get Trump into office for going after the Epstein files. And then they just did a 180. Like, it's off the chart. Like, they're so brazenly lying. I don't know how Bongino's going to take the calumny for how long he's going to do it. They're just...
He's back. He's waging war against the black pillars.
Sure is.
It's just so hilarious to see these people. I mean, he was on what they called during the Clinton administration, Air Fuck One, I think is how they would describe it. And Bongino, along with his brother, I think even, but Bongino specifically was clearly Secret Service detail for on behalf of Clinton, and so if we're to believe that he wasn't entirely exposed to this very network, and another reason why he's allegedly calling for the Epstein files to be released leading up to the administration, and then becoming a part of and taking just an immediate 180 and having a complete change in interpretation and opinion in terms of the level of exposure and transparency that should be had. But I will tell you, the one probably not, obviously the shrimp connection really was absolutely disturbing in context, but the one email that caught my eye instantly with these final drops was the email correspondence between an alleged interview of a purported Epstein victim, which said, "Thanks, I didn't realize Bush raped him too." Okay. And then, right, it goes into apparently this individual witness was on a yacht and apparently witnessed African-American males having sex with white blonde females, all of whom were bleeding during intercourse. And then going into details of how he was a victim of a type of ritualistic sacrifice in which his feet were cut with a scimitar, but left no scarring. On the yacht, he witnessed babies being dismembered, their intestines removed, and individuals eating feces from their intestines. He was also raped by George Bush Sr. And that always just the first thought I have if George Bush Sr. is mentioned is the Confessions of a DC Madam, Paul Benassi, and claiming that Todd Blodgett essentially arranged, as a member of the White House press, a room. He essentially arranged the midnight tours of the White House for those child prostitutes, connecting to Craig Spence and Henry Vinson. And it turns out that allegedly, according to Paul Benassi, that after that midnight tour at the White House, him and all the other boys were taken across the street to some sort of warehouse that they claimed was owned by the individuals in the network, and then essentially raped them in an orgy. And so I just always thought that George Bush Sr. and Reagan as well, but during that administration, I mean, you have a direct example of a key member in Bush Sr.'s cabinet, who Donald Gregg was his name, and he was frequenting and apparently using federal funds within the context of the Craig Spence operation, which was an entire apartment rigged for audiovisual blackmail with a two-way mirror, and Lawrence E. King sitting on the couch whenever Henry Vinson went to visit the second time. And it's just fascinating to see that this individual of such prominence, a literal cabinet member, while George Bush Sr.'s Secret Service detail is providing security 24 hours a day at Craig Spence's apartment, which is again rigged for audiovisual blackmail. He said he deals in blackmail as currency. Nothing
It's
new,
in
William.
these files too. There's like I can just type up blackmail. You can see them talking about blackmail, who they have blackmail on, who they tried to blackmail. Like they talk about it. He talks about it with a bunch of other different people.
Yeah.
They never thought it would see the light of day, but they're acknowledging that the normal person doesn't walk around trying to blackmail people.
Right.
They do.
I saw you post about Elizabeth Loftus being in these emails. To what effect was she discussed or like even referenced in the emails? Because I think I bookmarked the tweet that you made, but I can't find it now. So I was just wondering if you can recall exactly to what effect she was referenced in that context, because I found that fascinating.
Her whole like CV, her resume is in there on one whole, Bates number. So the Bates number is on the bottom right-hand side. That's how the legal team, kept track of all these things. It's EFTA for people who don't know. So it's Epstein something Transparency Act. Epstein, I forgot what the acronym is, but she's there in one. Then I know that she testified in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. So that's probably why it's there. But then she's also she's a board member on the Origins Project, which is another thing. So there's a January 29th, Lawrence Krauss to Epstein, where she's on there. So it's Noam Chomsky, Penn Jillette, what the hell is he doing on there?
Wow.
Martin Gee, Sheldon Glasgow, Susan Solomon, Elizabeth Loftus, Sid Altman, David Ross, Ian McEwan, Richard Dawkins, Schrag. So she's on there. It's the, I think it's something to do with, evolutionary biology.
Yeah, that
So
makes
she's around.
sense. Yeah, because she was heavily involved in the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which seems to me like the way that I interpreted this organization is basically their primary goal being to systematically discredit victims of child sexual abuse. And I mean, a foundation conveniently created to seed really a pseudoscientific falsehood into the public consciousness, while they're simultaneously serving as some sort of cleanup crew for the most prolific examples and crimes ever committed or facilitated as a result of these special operations regarding the Monarch Boys, or however you want to put it, in terms of, the mind control, trauma-based mind control, which is so very often relied on. And I think just understanding the role that she played. I mean, I discussed the Jimmy Shaver case as well during that False Memory Syndrome Foundation episode, and that's when that man's found near the military base in a trance outside the woods, and had just brutally killed a 3-year-old. And it's just the most, but he's yet unresponsive and doesn't even recall the identity of his own wife when she comes to visit him. And turns out he was a key victim of Jolly West and his behavioral modification experimentation. And Elizabeth Loftus, she's best known in relation to the misinformation effect, false memory, and criticism of recovered memory therapies. So very useful. In 2002, she was ranked 58th in the Review of General Psychology's list of the 100 most influential psychological researchers of the 20th century. The following year, she gets a distinguished award for scientific application of psychology from the APA. And that same year, she was also elected a Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. Now, what I think is most interesting is that, as you had mentioned, she's a member of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation Scientific Advisory Board, but then she provided expert testimony or consultation for lawyers in over 300 court cases of some of the most prominent and controversial figures in recent memory, and consistently stepped in as an expert witness in order to testify on behalf of the defense. And this included Ted Bundy, O.J. Simpson, Rodney King, Oliver North, Martha Stewart, Scooter Libby, Michael Jackson, the Hillside Strangler, the Menendez brothers, both Terry Nichols and Timothy McVeigh, as well as testifying for the defense regarding the killing of Susan Berman and Robert Durst's trial for murder, and Harvey Weinstein's trial for rape and sexual assault in 2020. It was Loftus who testified for the defense. And if that's not enough, her most recent high-profile case happened to be when she testified for the defense during Ghislaine Maxwell's trial regarding sex trafficking of underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein. So that is one of...
I'm going to go back and look at her testimony again and what her expert statements. I just interviewed Colin Ross, who's probably one of the most knowledgeable people about dissociative states in mind control out there. And he said stuff that was so, I can't even repeat it, graphic about her. So it would make sense that she's involved in memories, because she's a perp, man. According to him, that's not me. He said some, like child Epstein type stuff about her. Like, whoa, like I didn't elicit that. I didn't ask him about that. But she's notorious. And she charges like an arm and a leg. I think her billing rate's like $750 an hour, $1,000 an hour.
Oh, wow.
But she has an incredible resume. So she was on the FMSF with West. Like, that's the whole thing. So, like, there's cases that he's involved in where she's an expert. Like, these are conflict of interest and stuff like that. It's like, you shouldn't be on there. Give me a break. And for people who don't know, the False Memory Syndrome Foundation is very well financed. Where's this money coming from? Like, you guys have freaking journals, and there's tens of, experts, 40 experts. So they had a lot to cover up. I think that even Colin Ross even referenced that, like, these people's testimony who were victims or subjects of these mind control things. That's why, they were never believed, because then the expert would come in and say, no, these are all fake, made up, you're having bad dreams or something, right? So then it never came out.
Exactly.
And that's what West would do. West did that to Ruby. So not only did he like mess with his brain, it seems like, or give him an overdose of LSD like he did to Tusco, but he went out in public and said, the guy's schizo. So, you can go look in 63 at all the things where West is commenting, and it's just like that thing went out all to the public, right? So, this vaunted professor says that Ruby's looped. And so then everybody just goes, well, he's crazy. Oh, I made him freaking schizo. It's like,
exactly.
do schizogenesis. Like I did it to that guy Shaver, right?
Yeah. And that was always kind of what I thought about potentially what happened to Tim McVeigh when Jolly went and visited him as well, is perhaps he planted the notion in his mind subconsciously that without a doubt they would intervene and provide a counteracting substance to the lethal injection, and he would live on to provide vital use for this clandestine sort of gladio domestic operation, but maybe on the international stage instead, and live out your days in some remote beach location or something. But I'm not saying it's not possible, but it was always difficult for me to kind of walk away from it thinking they wouldn't have tied that loose end off as firmly as possible. And you just mentioning Jack Ruby, it was one of my favorite examples, and I used it obviously in my JFK assassination episode whenever I discussed what happened to him as he was willing and able and finally awaiting his a moment where he could testify and sort of blow the lid off of things, and what inevitably takes place. Beyond his fast-acting cancer diagnosis, which is very strange, understanding the level of technique and strategy involved with the CIA and their ability to target assassination, at least conduct these targeted assassinations at such a scientifically sophisticated level. I mean, the heart attack gun is real, right? And just seeing that what was it, in 1964? It was when Jolly went to visit Jack Ruby and psychologically examine him in preparation for his next trial. And apparently one of the techniques that more than likely was utilized was throughout his research in the 50s, he learned how to induce insanity in a person without their awareness. And so West goes to examine Ruby, emerges from the county jail with press waiting for him, and he announces that within the preceding 48 hours, Ruby had an acute psychotic break that was irrevocable. He couldn't return to sanity. He had audio and visual hallucinations, and during the exam, he said Ruby hid under a table because he thought there were people in the room trying to kill him. He told Jolly West what he could hear was Jewish children's screams outside his jail cell as they were being boiled alive. And apparently prior to this exam, there had been absolutely no evidence, obviously, of Jack Ruby being mentally ill. And West was only alone with him in the cell for I think it was, he treated him for the next 6 months, though, but obviously he was only in the cell with him for around 30 minutes or something to that effect. And then he's effectively babbling and incoherent, and grabbed the investigator for the Warren Commission when he was reportedly set to testify, which was Arlen Specter, who was compromised, and said, "Don't you know they're killing Jews? I can hear them being tortured outside my cell. They've killed my brother and cut off his legs." They couldn't use a thing in Jack Ruby's testimony to the Warren Commission.
Right. It totally nullified the video. He's crazy. Nothing he says is real. I mean, these are incredible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in freaking Belli all the way from California to represent. I mean, Belli, these guys are overlooked because they bring in Belli from California, whose specialty is civil law. Like, he's not a criminal defense lawyer. I don't think he's ever defended anybody. Like, you don't go, like, I'm going to go brain surgery. Let's get this foot surgeon over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense until you figure out Belli is running hypnotist lessons and is friends with William Joseph Bryan Jr. And he had a freaking, like, they're called the Belli. I have a book of it over here. They're called the Belli sessions, and he's bringing in William Joseph Bryan to talk about jury selection and hypnosis and stuff like that. And then he goes over there. So Ruby's handled from multiple sides by people who know about mind control. Belli and Bailey are like guys who were affiliated, good friend. Belli was a pallbearer for freaking William Joseph Bryan Jr.
No
when he
way.
died.
Oh
He
my
mysteriously died in a hotel room by all these expense hotel. Hotel rooms are some of the most, I cannot tell you how dangerous a hotel room is if people think they want to off you. It's one of the most dangerous places you could be for an intel person. It's like, this is like a prime spot. There's no witnesses.
Exactly.
Like you just, I mean, anyway, they always overlook that line. Like he's
Mhm.
like, he knows, and both him and Bailey are friends with him, and they're both all womanizers, all three of them, and actually apparently West too had girlfriends in a lot of different places that his wife never knew about. So when he was traveling around, he could be a Casanova or whatever.
Wow.
They all know these techniques to influence women. I'll just put it that.
Yeah. Exactly. And no, I think it plays into the application of these methods within all the various examples that we've used in terms of these cases and how much they overlap. And I think that's what the
One more
Sorry,
thing to
Yeah.
interject is in the Bannon Epstein, correspondences on iMessage or whatever they were using, Skype, they talk about Mesmer. And Epstein goes, Mesmer was a great man. Like he literally knows who Mesmer is.
Oh
You see if
my
I can
God.
bring that up. It's incredible. Like some of them, they're like riffing off each other intellectually, and I think like it's something like one of their flexes is
Right.
to just show how much knowledge and reference and know people. Like it's kind of like the strutting thing, like or I know this, I know that, and
Mhm.
here it is right here. Let's see. Can you bring this up? Let me see.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I just posted. Bannon goes, you get to see it before it goes anywhere. I can promise you it'll be mesmerizing, brutal, enlightening. Epstein, Dr. Mesmer was a genius.
Oh,
Steve Bannon, yes, you're the new Dr. Mesmer, both the light and the dark.
oh my God.
This is right at the end of 2018. So after the Julie Brown articles, this is when the pressure is starting to build against Epstein, like this whole avalanche of stuff.
My God.
I mean, we film everybody. I remember standing in line. This is Epstein. I remember standing in line to see Deep Throat, and I thought that was talent, dude. I already said yes, unless you think it's dumb. So they're talking about putting together this documentary about Epstein.
Right.
So they both know Mesmer. They both understand this stuff.
Hmm. I thought that what you had pointed out in terms of the correspondence with Bannon with the Ninth Circle was so fascinating. And as far as what you had highlighted was Bannon basically encouraging Epstein to, or Epstein encouraging Bannon is the way it was, I think, and basically to come to him physically, right, to spend like 8 to 10 days with him or something, and the language he used was, if you are going to play here, you'll have to spend time. Europe by remote doesn't work. Lots and lots of FaceTime and hand holding. And then, as you said earlier, abandon hope, all ye who enter, says Bannon. And Epstein replies, Ninth Circle. And what are your thoughts instantly when you first read that? I'm curious.
I just went right to the secret society thing.
Exactly.
Can you bring that up? It's the second slide on the Epstein
Mhm.
files. Maybe the public, people who are watching this can see this. This is really fascinating because it's an email exchange, but it shows that Bannon is in Brussels, and he's writing it with a guy in reference who is a part of his Humanitae Dignitas type stuff, who was like really one of the guys who's in there is literally a member of the Knights of Malta. But like some of these things are triggers in my mind. Like Brussels is the epicenter of the EU. It's also the epicenter of the Dutroux scandal, where these kids are trafficked to all of the elite, much like what's happening here. It's actually the Dutroux is probably pretty similar to the Epstein network. So when these are like words, when they're exchanging, I'm like, okay, secret society, non-public stuff, private diplomacy. Then he writes, hope, abandon hope, all you enter here, which is like into Dante's Inferno, right?
Exactly.
And instead of like this to me is a tell, because people have criticized me for like, they don't understand what the Ninth Circle is. You do. So they don't get it. They just go, oh, he's just referencing Dante. No, the proper response to me would be, oh, you're referencing Dante's Inferno, or say Inferno or Dante. He doesn't. He goes straight to Ninth Circle.
Right.
And that to me is kind of like a giveaway tell. And maybe you can tell what
extraordinarily.
you know. Like Ninth Circle is really dark. Like it's,
Yeah.
and then the thing is that I had interviewed last year Kevin Annett, who writes about the Ninth Circle. So I
Mhm.
knew it, and then I posted his interview with Imaginarium or Imagination. I can't remember the name of the podcast, but he did an interview about the Ninth Circle. And so the frame of reference in the people who are looking at my stuff, they just don't know where that fits in the whole scheme of things. It's a secret
Right.
society.
Exactly. I thought instantly of Roman Polanski and the Ninth Gate. That's just the first thought that I had, and how it was basically I think some sort of subconscious harvesting of energy in a real way for 1999 being the reverse of 1666, and the alleged book that was this grimoire, this occult grimoire that Johnny Depp's character was hired to essentially go and find, and it's all in order to ritualistically summon Satan is basically the point of it, and you have clearly it's some sort of ushering in of the Antichrist in a way to bring forward the age of Aquarius and this dawning of a new era. And I think just like putting that in parallel with Roman Polanski and the Rosemary's Baby prophecy that he would create just before the unfortunate demise of Sharon Tate, who I think was some sort of witch in the process church or something. It seems like you have this birth of a new era and new ion, not era. Okay, Uncle Ted, sounds good. And but it's just honestly the new millennium is what they focus on, and I think realizing what the significance of the grimoire that they were in search of is very interesting. And again, it was called something to the effect of. I'll find the name here in just a moment. The Shadows of Darkness or something. It's a crazy name, but the nine circles of hell are obviously described in Dante's Inferno, and they specifically reference first circle is limbo, and then it goes to lust, gluttony, greed, anger, heresy, violence, fraud, treachery. And all throughout the film and the plot line, essentially Johnny Depp experiences these nine circles of Dante's Inferno, and he engages in all of this sadistic and sinister behavior in a way. And I think through having a sex ritual with the Whore of Babylon at a specific geographical location, with all the elements required, then they could effectively summon basically the Antichrist, formation of, and it's just very strange to see the level of symbolism involved in the film itself. I think Boris Balkan, the name of the individual who hired Johnny Depp, who's this very wealthy, prominent figure, I think his private collection was behind, like in this closed off room, and he had to enter 666 to enter, and obviously it was he shows his most prized possession to Johnny Depp, and it was the 9 gates of the kingdom of shadows. And it has an inverted pentagram and all of this on it. And the hangman you see just before it predicts the death of in exactly that same fashion, hung upside down in a way, was a personal friend of Johnny Depp's. But yeah, Balkan describes it as they form a satanic riddle correctly interpreted with the aid of the original text and sufficient insider information. They're reputed to conjure up the Prince of Darkness in person. And so that was my first thought whenever I saw you post about the ninth circle. And then I fell down the proverbial rabbit hole into the depths of darkness. And I realized, oh my God, this goes so much deeper. And unfortunately has just an extraordinary historical reference point that is worthwhile in understanding. And I think that presents itself in the form of this young girl who went missing and disappeared in 1978, I believe, or 83. No, 83 was when she disappeared, basically. And her name was Emanuela Orlandi. And it turns out there was an international court set to investigate Pope Leo's complicity in the ritual murder of children and the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi specifically. And so through reading some of these, and by the way, this is all essentially it's located geographically within the context of Rome, Vatican City, and Brussels. So again, we have Brussels and Belgium playing a fundamental role in this sort of abuse. And so as the story goes, Pope Benedict was allegedly prosecuted and forced from office, right? There was a criminal lawsuit that was launched against Pope Leo and Robert Prevost and charged with them with complicity in murder, criminal conspiracy, and crimes against humanity. And allegedly, this girl was against, this was a bishop of Rome, allegedly, because based on this evidence, he was linked to a ritual and rape and murder of children as a newly ordained priest. And so the torture and disappearance of Emanuele Orlandi happened on the summer solstice of 1983, which, as we know, a cold holiday, very much hyperactive, unfortunately, in this context. And so anyway, I'll get to the point, which is basically that you have investigators with the International Common Law Court of Justice who interviewed a former participant of the Ninth Circle cult, as well as a victim survivor of these various murder rituals and things of that nature. And both of the witnesses claimed that Robert Prevost participated in the killing of children as part of his induction and initiation into the cult. They also stated that Prevost was present at the rape, torture, and subsequent disappearance of Emanuele Orlandi on June 22nd, 1983, in a chamber beneath the Vatican. So they had corroborating evidence from Vatican archival evidence that apparently consists of a log of the details of all Ninth Circle ceremonies held in Rome since 1870. The record confirms Prevost's presence at these events in September 78 and in June of 83. And the final point is basically that, according to the court prosecutor, the quote was, apparently the new Pope Leo, Robert Prevost, was inducted into the Ninth Circle soon after his ordination as a priest in September 78, the same month that the former Pope John Paul was murdered in the Vatican. Prevost's induction into the cult occurred at midnight on October 16, 1978, in a sub-basement catacomb beneath the Vatican. During that initiation, the newly appointed Pope John Paul II presided at the ritual killing, dismembering, and cannibalizing of a 4-year-old Italian boy. Prevost was also present on June 22, 1983, when Emanuele Orlandi was kidnapped by Vatican agents, raped and tortured by Ninth Circle members, and then taken to Germany to be sexually trafficked and possibly sacrificed. Like every Roman pontiff, Robert Prevost was chosen as pope from a select stable of Ninth Circle members who have been groomed by the cult for years and have proved their loyalty to its carnage. And that was the final statement. But the fact of the matter is, not only do they have an alleged serial killer who's potentially involved in many allegations were made surrounding the death and disappearance of over 13, I think it was up to 13 young girls at that very time that Emanuele went missing. That seems to provide some firm corroborating evidence that he was potentially involved with the network, and once again question the concept of a serial killer. And then you have a Vatican sex scandal theory that was essentially brought forward by various witnesses during the investigation. And so you had the gendarmes being providing police protection to the network, and allegedly, just as in Belgium with the Dutroux affair, were also involved in the on-the-ground abductions that were being obviously pursued on behalf of the network. So I believe that's, and there's so much more to this case. I legitimately do believe it was significantly entrenched systematically within the crux of power in the Vatican City. And so it was effectively covered up in more ways than one. And isn't that always the case, William? So here we are again, my friend.
Big circle, man.
Right.
Big circle. We're thankfully are not in it.
Mhm.
It's been 11 days since the last drop. I haven't been found in the Epstein files yet, thank God. But it's dark. I mean, really dark. I mean, there's so many coded terms, and this I think is one. Like in Bannon, where's the response from Bannon?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Right? Like, what? Ninth circle of what? Like, are you talking about treachery? Like, what are you talking about? It just the email exchange ends. I couldn't find another response email, right? Because like if
Mhm.
you said something to me like, "Oh, the dark book of Satan and the ninth gate," and I didn't know, I go, what's that? Tell me what that means, because I know the ninth gate. By the
Right.
way, Johnny Depp becomes the beast, right?
Yeah.
He's having sex with the whore of Babylon, and it's the beast in Babylon ritual. Crowley writes has her. You can go get Magic in Theory and practice, and go to the index and look for the beast in Babylon, Lady Babylon
Yeah.
ritual, and that's what they're depicting. Is the
Wow.
little sexual magic of Johnny becoming the beast. He becomes the beast and goes through the ninth gate right at the castle.
Hmm.
So, but like it's interesting. My point is like, where is Bannon's questioning response, or just saying, "I know what you mean." You know what I mean? Instead, it just
Yeah.
goes, "No, it's nothing."
Hmm.
Whoa, don't even bring that up. You're not supposed to talk about this. And
Right.
there are, I mean, in that whole thread too, I include this other secret society that I didn't even know, which was the Zodiac Club.
Oh,
Only
that
10,
was so crazy.
only 12 members, right? And
Yeah.
they're looking for somebody to become a new member. And all they
Mhm.
do is supposedly is have lunch. It's just like,
Yeah.
and then there's all these other people around Epstein who were involved in the literal magical circle group, like David Copperfield and the present King Charles the
Mhm.
Third, that is literally depicted. The same insignia is at the toy store at the end of Eyes Wide Shut.
Wow.
They are
My
all
God,
part
man.
of this magical circle, and it's all we do is card tricks. These are all. That's all Epstein was doing too. It's like, oh, they're just trafficking. They like 15, 16-year-old girls.
Yeah.
No, that's just the cover story, guys. So
Mhm.
all these things have these benign, like carefree things they tell all these secret societies do that too. They just tell these benign things to the public, and people just go, okay, it's a
Yeah.
sugar coated pill. But yeah, there are. I'm going to do a whole show just on the correlation between the Epstein files and Eyes Wide Shut, because there's
Yeah.
just so many. The women being produced in baby incubators, the intergenerational nature, the
Right.
blackmail, the intimidation, the suicides, right? Like there's all kinds of weird suicides. Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
goes back to Hitler. I forgot to mention like his niece supposedly committed suicide with a gun, which if you believe that, I've got some beachfront
Yeah.
beachfront property for you in Colorado or something.
Exactly.
The women they don't use guns often. They don't like guns.
No.
General. But yeah, like it's just incredible. These secret societies, Ninth Circle,
Mhm.
Zodiac, Magic Circle, and the network itself is. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like when I say like there's multiple Epsteins, it's if you just go in and do the research on David Copperfield, what's his real name, what he has his own island, the complaints about him,
Right.
the sexual perversions. I mean, then you can just extrapolate all these people with their own islands in the Caymans. What's the guy's name he was also arrested? He was from Canada.
Peter Nygaard.
Yeah, Nygaard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know
Mhm.
what's really weird is like Ashley Banfield, who's like been around, she'd send these adoring emails to Epstein, or like she wanted to get to meet Epstein, which is kind of weird. Like I don't know, maybe women have a different eye, but maybe they're just attracted to him as a powerful, mysterious figure. But I
Right.
wouldn't say that he's a GQ model. But she grew up, her family knew Nygaard. Like
Wow.
she's in a nexus, but like literally he was like their uncle or something. Like they
Oh
would
my.
spend holidays with Nygaard. And
That
these
is
two
so
guys
crazy.
are just savagely abusing people.
Mhm.
Nygaard, I had somebody who wrote a book about that guy. Like the stuff he would do, I don't even want to talk about it.
Honestly.
Did you know like the story of Nygaard?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's so fascinating,
It's-
though.
yeah. But
Canada's
like she's
Epstein.
Ashley Banfield, like that's how quiet these people were keeping their lid on all this stuff. Like
Right.
you would think at a certain point, like Ashley Banfield would come forward and go, I tried to hit on Jeffrey Epstein, and Nygaard was my uncle. Guys, I've got a great story to tell. I've got personal stuff I can tell. But then you realize she's on TV with smiley face insignia on her like stuff, and you go, oh, "Okay, you're part of the cult. I get you."
Of course. Yeah,
Let me
you
see
know
if
what
I
I
can find that picture.
the first thought I have of Peter Nygaard is this incredible video, which I'm sure you have seen by now, where he's sitting around the table with these black women, and specifically, he decides to really, honestly, just reveal to them his ultimate goal. And just briefly, after you brought him up, we have to play this. It's so sinister.
Stem cell technology that Peter and I are investing in. It's called SCNT, which takes the egg of a young, perfect woman specimen, takes the egg and takes out the nucleus and puts our DNA in
Look at the facial expressions on these poor women as well throughout this conversation. It's very weird.
the nucleus. They just go in and take it out.
It's painful, right?
Huh?
Is it painful to use a
Yeah, a little bit. And this is part of this genetic greatness that we don't see in any other race on the planet. These curvy, sexy black women from Africa. You girls have a kind of a monopoly on this genetic perfection, and we want some of that.
Who's the guy on the left?
Yeah, it
No,
was a
Nygaard.
business partner of Nygaard who was apparently pursuing this transhumanist eugenics policy, where they were basically trying to essentially gain various avenues into how they could procure period blood from various women as well, which they claimed to have like these regenerative properties that were extraordinary and nearly supernatural. And it was basically this sort of the notion of adrenochrome in a strange way, but obviously not entirely just affiliated with children specifically, but I'm sure that has its own properties and value to these people. But my God, just basically what when Peter decides to break into the conversation, it's just so shocking what he has the audacity to even say out loud. Let alone some knowingly recorded video that's going to go into the public sphere and have, he was in no way concerned about consequences or anything of that nature. It's very interesting to see.
For $100, we will pay you for your egg.
No, you $100, monkey.
So how much do you want for it? Let's bid. I bid $500 for the whatever I bid, he's gonna outbid me. I'm going to book $60,000 with the eggs. Yeah. If you have abortion, that's very valuable. Umbilical cord,
If you have an abortion, that's very valuable.
These guys are
The umbilical
vampires.
cord. Yeah, exactly.
Placenta, your period blood is so rich with stem cells. We regard it as
Look at that
waste, and
girl.
it's actually
Yeah, they're like, well, I got to get out of here.
recycled, and it should go to waste. It's life for somebody else, and it's life for mankind. The best eggs are 60 to 18 years old. Those are the best eggs. As you get older, your eggs get weaker and weaker.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So you may not be our top candidate.
No, that's fine.
You might not be our candidate because she's getting older and her eggs are not as valuable as they once were. It's just, the first, we'll get out of here in just a moment, William. I appreciate your time as always, obviously, but the first thought I had here was Juliet Bryant, right? Epstein's blue butterfly. And I'll never forget her story about Zorro Ranch and the baby making factory that he essentially had set up there, and these stables of women he was attempting to impregnate at all at once in the same time. And basically, as she's spending time at the Zorro Ranch property, she claims to have woken up paralyzed and naked on an operating table in the middle of the night. All of them seem to have the blue butterflies, she claims, as far as all the female victims that she came into contact with, which she said people have claimed represents Lilith, the first wife of Adam. And then she goes into how harvesting eggs is allegedly a priority within Epstein's theory of eugenics, which the Zorro Ranch property itself was not far at all from the Dulce military base, I think it was. And the notion was she woke up paralyzed and they harvested her eggs on an operating table and she couldn't do anything about it. And what she has been claiming about basically Michael Bay and all these various perpetrators and of prominence named in the network by some of the victims. She claims Michael Bay in 2004, she met him at Epstein's property and that he was a perpetrator that allegedly raped her. And that apparently she goes into the fact that just after this meeting, Michael Bay produces the film The Island about clones who are literally created for organ harvesting.
They're talking about this. It's in the Epstein files. They're talking about cloning. I mean, there's evidence of infants being taken, disappearing, of incubation in women, of Israeli doctors showing up and performing these things. Leon and Ghislaine, like this young girl. It's a recent case too. It was just done in 2024, 25. These are crimes. Where are these kids? Where are these children? It's so grotesque. There's like emails to Epstein about like, okay, once we were getting this biology together, we want to go from a garage type setting to this, and then integrate these designer babies and change the future of the human species. That's what they're talking about. That's how serious it is. Can you pull up that file right there? That's Polanski lawyers. So the tie into the Ninth Gate. That girl who was in the Ninth Gate is Polanski's longtime girlfriend, by the way.
Yeah,
that girl who played the kind of entity.
Yeah, the whore of Babylon.
Yeah, the whore of Babylon is Roman Polanski's girlfriend. Roman Polanski's, and then he's involved in like Sharon Tate and all those other deaths. Roman Polanski's attorneys are coming to see me. I might want to find an exhibition entitled "Statutory: Girls and Boys, Ages 14 to 25, where they look nothing like their true ages." See, I didn't know they were 14. They look 19, right? That's the cover story they're going to give out. Juvenile, mug shots, Photoshop. This is from Jeff. So he's not his real name. I found out his real name is Yehud. His born Hebrew name is Yehud, which is the Hebrew version of Judah, which that's where we get the word Jew. Like he literally could be Jew Epstein.
Stop it.
No,
Stop it, William.
dead serious. A lot of Jews, a lot of have anglicized names, like David Copperfield's fake. I don't know what his Jewish name is, but some of these guys will reveal them, like they will have an anglicized name, and then their birth certificate will have, like, you know, Shlomo Goldstein or something like different, but he goes by Bob Johnson.
Right.
Anyway, this is like an interesting one. So it's just showing that this overlap between Epstein and this, and then here's the Ashley Banfield lust for Epstein thing. Peggy Siegel. Ashley, is your friend Jeffrey still single? Epstein says, "My amazing girl, I should take Sunday event. Or invite Ashley Banfield, who was lusting for you. I can give you email phone." Wow. 2012. Isn't that weird?
Absolutely.
Lusting after Epstein? What?
No, we're supposed to, interpret this and essentially dismiss it at face value in many ways, because we don't have out and out examples of them saying directly what they were actually, this is what I find to be such a low frequency inability to critically think through things. And I think it's more a part of some sort of coping mechanism that I think has been conditioned and driven into most people who are just so unwilling to even go there. And I think it's, yes, ignorance is bliss at a certain level, but when you are turning a blind eye to such sinister forms of abuse, especially in this context, then you are only doing the bidding of the very pedophile-occupied government and facilitating their agenda, and in no way presenting a dissenting and objective voice that's trying to hold power accountable. And it's just more and more that we look into and dig through these the evidence still remaining available to us, and hopefully we get some of those further redacted files back up on the DOJ website. But we'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but I figure
It's too late for these guys because people have downloaded the entire thing right away.
True.
So they can do whatever. That's how they're getting caught in these changes and things like that. People have the original files. Might be me. I might actually have the original files.
Thank God for you, William. That's why you're
Peter,
here.
listen, Ashley Banfield. Her connection is through her childhood best friend, who was Peter Nygaard's niece, Angela Dyborn. Banfield knew Nygaard growing up, referring to him as Uncle Peter because of his close friendship with his niece.
Wow.
She spent time around him as a child and young adult, like red flag,
Yeah.
red siren alert,
Mhm.
and described this as a very personal story. Well, how personal? The relationship is central to a true crime podcast series, Drop Dead series with Ashley Banfield, specifically the first season titled Uncle Peter, which launched in early 2025. She collaborates with this niece to explore his life, crimes, empire, and downfall.
Wow. That's too much. It's
It's
just
just unbelievable.
no, it is. It's unbelievable is the best way to actually describe it. And I mean, honestly, William, we could sit here for 6 more hours and just consistently go through all of these, but it would be a little bit. I'm
Scratch
already
the
feeling
surface.
overwhelmed in a way. I'm sure you're experiencing something similar as far as just the extraordinary nature of this, but also how much it reinforces what we unfortunately already knew. I think it was Top that I was talking to. I messaged him and he was talking about coming on for the Epstein files, and I just told him, like, these are the moments that I honestly wish I was wrong. It's like it's so hard to even imagine taking some sort of victory lap in a time such as this, when we are legitimately essentially being granted and provided the proof positive of this sinister nature of the power cabal, pulling the strings of their political puppets, who seem to be, in terms of the vast majority, compromised by sexual blackmail. And by now, if you haven't recognized that fact, you're hiding. And unfortunately, you're hiding in the dark, and you're burying your head in the sand in a moment that is so crucial, because this is a turning point in a certain sort of way. And people have to wake up once and for all to the dark reality we're facing. But anyway, do you have any
The
final thoughts?
the sexual blackmail may be the lightest stuff. These guys may be brought into even deeper stuff, like initiatory stuff, right? Oh, here's the 14-year-old. I got a 12. I got a 10. I got a bait. We know that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell asked Virginia Giuffre to have a baby. No questions asked. We'll give you money. So what's going on? And what is happening? What is all these things? It's just like, so it's even worse than we think, but you're absolutely right. This is a crucial thing. And, I think we're all just surprised to see it right in our faces. I mean, maybe I speak for myself, but I know that so many people are going through the Epstein files. Like my social media is just like going crazy. It's not even like a normal thing. Like I had 1.7 million hits on one of these Bannon things. Like,
Wow.
it's crazy. Yeah, no, that's never happened. The only time that happened was in 2016 when I was writing about Hillary Clinton's illness. Like people knew she was sick. Like they were running. I don't know if you remember the infamous. It's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Because it was September 11th, 2016, when they picked her up and threw her into that modified emergency van. Remember? But like they were just lying. And they've been lying to us forever. We cannot trust the media. Go watch the mass media right now. They're just lying. They're just avoiding this. And it just shows how many people are involved in the capital E, Epstein, capital N network. Like we're literally in some kind of Eyes Wide Shut film. It's just absolutely crazy. It's right in front of your face.
Just honestly, and when I see we have every form of the most sinister abuse you could imagine in these files, and we have what Pizzagate pedophiles. It's essentially being reconfirmed, and fertility rituals, obviously, pedophile breeding experiments, apparently even including cloning designer babies, as you mentioned, and I mean satanic ritual abuse snuff films, apart with ritualistic cannibalism. I mean, if you have all of these examples you can point to just out of the Epstein files in terms of the sinister forms of abuse, then this phenomenon is nothing new, as I've said before, and it's something that I think, as again, no better or more perfect time than now. And I think that's why you're getting such feedback on X, right? Is because people are desperate for answers in this moment, and thank God for that. I think it's so I'm so appreciative of that, and I think that the sloppy nature of these sinister prominent figures is in itself kind of reassuring at a certain level, only because they overtly reveal themselves over the course of time, and just give them enough time, and you'll continue to gain more and more credible evidence reinforcing this reality. But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess we can all just relax, right? Because it seems as if the FBI has officially solved the Epstein case. And Epstein was not running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men or blackmail. So we we can all sleep easy tonight. But
I got one more file before we go. Check this one
Awesome.
out. This should unnerve you. This is from Brian Bishop, or from Epstein. It goes from Brian Bishop to Epstein, 2018. He'd be dead almost within a year. This gets us out of our self-funded garage biology phase to the first live birth of a human designer baby, and possibly a human clone within 5 years. Once we reach the first birth, everything changes, and the world will never be the same again, much less the future of the human species. That's what they're talking about in 2018 on a 5-year plan. It's 2026. What's going on? Like this all Congress should stop and find out what Brian Bishop is apparently a crypto guy.
Yeah.
What are you freaks doing? What are you tampering with?
right.
This is the mentality that led up to COVID too. Like this is like sinister, Dr. Evil type stuff, like in real world. Like this is really crazy. So if you think the COVID or COVID, some people call it accurately, happened in some kind of vacuum, it's these type of people. And they're all over. Metabiota's in this file. Wolf, Epstein, he's connected to what happened, and Gates, obviously. He's connected to what happened in 2020. Like, what's our government doing? Like, can you imagine, like, they could have $1 trillion defense budget and they're not applying anything to this? Like, why are you paying taxes? I think, I'll leave it on this. I've been saying, like, the country will go into a civil war. They just need to have those events, John Brown, Harper's Ferry, Fort Sumter. These are what led up to it. This is like that.
Yeah.
I think that this is kind of like a second Civil War event that will be a kind of like a neutron bomb where you won't see an open explosion, but people are effing pissed.
Absolutely.
They don't. If there's one thing that people don't like is abuse of children. Like the teen abuse is bad, but like once they figure out that these are trafficking on prepubescent people, I'm saying that this is like a Fort Sumter or a Harper's Ferry. So anyway, thanks for having me. It's great to talk with you. I could talk with you.
Absolutely, William. Of course, man. I think it's what I find so inspiring about the conversations we have together is just the fact that I'm not alone, for one. And right, it's just it brings me some solace. But yeah, as far as wasn't that Brian Bishop example even in context with the Ukraine and exploiting the failed state there, and just understanding the notion that Ukraine became basically the world human trafficking hub following this failed state and this contrived conflict, and then funding Bitcoin's core development. And then this figure, Brian Bishop, is so very obviously a part of Bitcoin, and as well as this strange designer baby cloning experimentation. But anyway, it's just something that I think, I mean, they're discussing in the files mRNA and things of that nature as well. And so here we are facing the facts, and unfortunately, it's much darker than we ever imagined. But again, William, as always, I very much appreciate you, and you are someone I admire, and you inspire me from afar, as always. And so I have to say thank you for, just your commitment to this effort and bringing forward the truth in this very moment when it's so crucial to do so. So I appreciate you, brother. And thanks to everyone who showed up. Obviously, you guys know nothing but love. And did you need anything before we get out of here?
No, just you can. I posted a lot before I started getting really ripped off by bigger accounts on X. So I'm still looking at it independently. So I'm not like going to rip off other people's content. I'm trying to repost content that I think is good too. So you can check that out on X. Yeah,
you were included in some sort of list on.
Yeah,
on
no,
X,
I made it. I got included with Nick Bryant and Whitney Webb. I'm like, yes.
Badge
I
of
made
honor,
it, guys.
William.
I made it. They're gonna defame me and they're gonna set me straight. They called me like a clickbaiter, clickbaiting for cheese or something like that. Like,
how dare you, William?
I mean, guys, this is like the most important information of my lifetime. Like, I've been like just seeing like in a hall of mirrors, like for this. Now I'm looking at like not the reflection, but the actual stuff.
Right.
Like, this is the most important stuff of my lifetime. Like, I don't think like Eyes Wide Shut. Like, oh, is this really happening? This is a fictional depiction. These are not. I don't think these guys ever thought that their files and their emails would ever come to a public eye. So I credit a lot of people in Congress who did this massive, who left party lines. Guy's freaking a hero.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the Democrats wanted it done for political reasons, which is not the best idea. I think that they're playing like the moralists and stuff. But a lot of these people, who are on the right ostensibly, these are the Christian moralists, but we're not going to let this out and keep all the public in the dark. That should make you white, like a white hot fury of a dwarf star angry.
Exactly.
If you're a Christian too, like these are pieces of trash. They're going to burn in hell. God knows what they did. All right, man.
Couldn't agree more, my brother. And one last thing, the Epstein files, they honestly serve ultimately as a symbol of what I've described as the malignant cancer disrupting all of global society and ultimately revealing a system that intentionally punishes victims and protects predators. So that is where we find ourselves. And again, I love you all. I appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one. Look out for, I think, the 16th on Monday. I'm going to have JJ on as far as from Operation GCD. And we're going to talk Pizzagate. So everybody tune into that as well. I'm sure no better time than now, as I've been saying, obviously. So you all have a wonderful weekend. Have a good evening. And I appreciate your time as always, William.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.